Yeah.
So right now, I'm gonna plug it again. Paper Girls is that book for me.
It is, eh?
Every Tuesday, when we get new comics in and stuff, and we're getting them ready for Wednesday, if Paper Girls came out, I stop what I'm doing. I'm like, guys, give me 5-10 minutes, and I read it, and I tell you, not once has this book let me down. Like, the art, Cliff Chang is killing it. But Brian K. Vaughan, I haven't read anything bad from him. Yeah,
such a huge fan.
So I actually love it. And if you're a fan of Stranger Things and you really like the first 2 seasons of it,
a little bit of Goonies too.
I'm just gonna say, you know what, Paper Girls is the book for you. And guess what? It's about 10 times better than Stranger Things. It just is. The characters are phenomenal. So check it out. I'm not gonna say anything more about it to ruin the plot anything, but it's fantastic.
It's crazy too, though. And you know what? Here's the thing. Speaking of girls, so there's 2 things that I didn't want to forget to tell you, because one is, what's up with the chicks visiting the stores now? Like before, I kind of found, I used to go to Silver Snail as a kid. It's all dudes all the time. And I remember, I think it was another podcast that I was listening to, and they said that within a span of like shy of a decade, the new demographic for comic book stores is women from 25 to 35. Have you felt that in the store at all?
No, for sure, and I think personally, there's a couple things that I think have attributed to that. One, it's the media with all the movies and all the TV shows.
Yeah.
And 2, I think we are now at that point. We're at that generation where almost everybody now that you talk to that's in their mid to late 20s and 30s, they grew up with video games.
Absolutely.
Right? So
We
everybody had a Nintendo. Everybody had a Sega Genesis or whatever, or coming up your PlayStation. So it was cool to be a gamer. Boy, girl, didn't matter. And that was one of those unifying things. If you were a gamer and you could play Street Fighter, you didn't matter if you were a girl. You put your quarter down, or you challenge somebody or whatever, or you're playing these great games and stuff, and that transcended into the comic books because there's no stigma, and I think as a testament to that, the good stores have had to step up. They've had to make their place friendly and open to all people. I want to say, again, that was our mode from day one. I don't want to lose a customer because they don't feel comfortable in the store. I don't want to lose a customer because they don't want to come into the store and it's, this place is filthy, or it's super dusty, or I can't see anything, or that guy creeps me out. I hate to say it. That's still, unfortunately, we still got a little bit of that comic shop guy stigma.
Really?
Well, I just think in the industry in general, but yeah, like I personally, and at Heroes World, we have a really big contingent of female customers.
Yeah.
And the one thing I want to say on that subject is, there is enough different comic books on the market
that caters to
cater to everybody. But I think there's one thing that some people might have forgotten, and I am going to mention this a little bit to Marvel, because I think they did make a couple of missteps with how they wanted to introduce diversity into comics.
Sure.
So, years and years ago, I had some female comic customers come in, and they were new. And, I thought, okay, I'm going to be, very, very mindful of what I recommend and stuff. And I'm like, you got to read Birds of Prey. It's a great book, and you got to check out. It is a great book. And I'm recommending all these, kind of cool books. And I remember the girl. There's 2 of them, and one of them picked up like Walking Dead.
Okay, good.
Okay, which was cool because I can't remember who was on the cover of it. They just loved the covers because they hadn't read anything before. And the other one had picked up a Witchblade graphic novel, and it was the Michael Turner cover where she's kind of trying to rip the blade off, and a lot of cleavage on that cover. And I didn't even recommend that because I was afraid to. And they said, no, she's a cop and she's sexy, and they bought it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we kind of forget, and we want to pigeonhole people into something. So for me, again, I'm going to ask you come in the store, I'm going to ask you what you rate or what you're looking for. If you come in and tell me you love the Batman movie, I'm not going to recommend to you Batgirl or Batwoman first.
No, it's not that
you
linear.
Came in looking for Batman.
Yeah.
Just like if a girl comes in and she says Spider-Man, I'm not going to shoehorn you to Spider-Girl, Spider-Gwen, Spider-Woman.
Yeah.
You've asked for that. And I think that a lot of the stuff that Marvel did by just recreating the male characters into females, I think that did a little bit of disservice.
Like because, the whole Jane Foster Thor thing?
The Thor, the She-Hulk and stuff like that. X-23 turning into being dubbed Wolverine.
Right,
I'm like, no, there's a ton of great female characters already. You don't have to just, give them a male title in order to try and sell it. And I think there's something about comics that when people come to comics, they're going to gravitate towards something and they're going to buy it. I don't think you have to artificially create that. You just have to remember that, guess what? Men and women make everything together.
Yeah,
and when
absolutely.
you look at, especially Marvel's history, who are the strongest members of these superhero teams? Invisible Woman, strongest member of the Fantastic Four, hands down. You talk to anybody, strongest. Storm on the X-Men, Jean Grey. So yes, maybe that comic was called the X-Men, but I don't think as readers we ever thought that it excluded women. And I think that's what the Marvel, and I hate to keep harping on it, but I think that's what they forgot. They forgot that it's a duality. Just like, I don't know if you're reading the new Green Arrow comic from the Rebirth.
Right.
Fantastic. It's Green Arrow and Black Canary every issue, and I don't think it matters that her name is not on the book. It's still a great book.
Black Canary's
with her
been
in
my
it.
girl.
Yeah, so
course.
It's again a great series and stuff. So that's my little spew on it. I think it's great that we have so many diverse customers that feel good and safe coming to the store, and that they leave with something.
No, and I hear that as well, because even with me, sometimes there's so many things already on my list of things to read. You've just mentioned one of them again. Like, I want to finish Birds of Prey, but then I also wanted to get into Rat Girls. It's like, where do I mean, I have a full-time job too, I can't read during that time. So, sometimes.
Sometimes,
sometimes. I'm going to admit to that. But it's hard to prioritize stuff because there's so many things going on, because now the availability is there, and now that it's there for you,
You just have to make the time.
Exactly, and those girls, by the way, you were saying about Marvel, I totally agree with you that there's such importance to that, because I remember as a kid, and then I heard from just like school, recess banter, that Jean Grey died. I'm like, what do you mean Jean Grey died? And then as an adult, when I finally read it, and this has happened like maybe a decade after, and I finally read like, what was it, like the death of Jean Grey. And do you remember that cover with Cyclops, and it was her funeral, and he had like the satchel and stuff? I actually kind of like, am I tearing up because I have allergies, or because I'm actually like, this happened? You know what I mean? So many great deaths, so many great sacrifices, kind of
that's
stuff.
the word right there, sacrifices. I think that is what defines a hero, and that defines strength of character, and I think comics are the perfect spot for that, because I think in a way we need to see that a little bit more often. We need to see the good person. We need to see the heroes doing what's right because it's what's right. We've had this kind of period of kind of like the dark age of some of these anti-heroes and people, and a lot of television and stuff. There's people that are good, but they're almost only good for themselves.
Right.
But it's actually cool that you mentioned Jean Grey. So I'm going to give you another thing to add to your reading list. And
oh no!
I know it's but the Marvel series, the Phoenix Resurrection, that just wrapped up, and X-Men Red came out this week. So I'm going to go off on a little bit of those. Wow, the 5th issue was fantastic for that, and Jean Grey, she confronts the Phoenix Force, and the Phoenix Force is telling her, together we could be a god. Together we can bring back all the people you weren't able to save, all your loved ones lost. And Jean Grey says no. She says, you know what? I need to grow, and I need to suffer those losses, and I need to move past it. And I was like, wow, that was so good. So this is a human being refusing unlimited power, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the Phoenix, in one final gambit, the Phoenix is trying to trick her. She brings back Cyclops, and we know Cyclops died in Inhumans versus X-Men.
Yeah.
And he says, I've always loved you, Jean, and I've only loved you. And they get this nice moment, and while they're embracing, the Phoenix shows that he's dead, and he kind of turns into a corpse in her arms and stuff. And she says, I know you showed me that to weaken me, to show me the error of my ways. But she says, you just gave me another moment with the man I love, my husband. And I thank you for that, Phoenix, but I do not want your gift. Please, you move on without me, because I am not going to be what you want me to be, what you need me to be. And the Phoenix dissipates, and I'm like, wow, that's such a cool story, and just the strength of character to do that. And another book that it reminded me of instantly was a book that came out years ago. It was the Marvel and DC crossover, the Avengers and the Justice League. And
I have not found that yet.
Because you know what? It doesn't make sense that it's not in print. There's no trade paperback
that's
of
why.
it. Yeah,
okay.
They did one years and years ago, but it's not in print. But there's a wicked moment in that where you've got like Scarlet Witch, and you've got Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, and at the time, Green Lantern was parallax and he was dead. But because this was a kind of a cosmic caper where they can't come back, Hal Jordan as Green Lantern, he says, I've seen the way you guys have looked at me, and I know some of us shouldn't be here, and I've heard what I've done, but if we can work together and I can sacrifice myself to save you and redeem what I did, I'm going to do it. So it was such a cool moment. Like you're talking about getting hit, and right in the feels, and you're just like, that's what a hero does. It's not about self-sacrifice. It's not about what they want. It's about transcending that and being
like
selfless, and again it's so missed. So I really love that Phoenix Resurrection issue. So if there's any listeners out there who haven't read it, recommend it.
Pick it up. Yes, absolutely.
And that leads right into X-Men Red, which was another great
That's
story.
The one where she's leading it now, right?
She's leading the team,
That's right.
and again, the first thing she does in this, I'm not going to give away too much, but she literally lobbies the United Nations to say you have to recognize mutants as a separate group of people, even though we are not all in one continent.
That's
and
right.
She says because when mutants gather, they're targets. But we need to have a voice. And I'm like, wow, okay, maybe that's a little bit too real world, but I'm like, what a great thing to do. It's original, and I can see Jean Grey doing that. Like that's the thing. Like she is going to pursue Professor X's dream in a different manner, because the spotlight
and the world
is on it. The world is totally changed. Yeah. So a couple things for you guys to check out.
I'm happy with it. What I wanted to say as well was the True Believers comics. So if you guys haven't been visiting a shop lately, but all these new things they're happening. Their Marvel Legacy is literally doing exactly that. They're honoring their original characters and kind of bringing them back, and they're releasing this thing called True Believers. It's been on for like quite a few months now.
Yeah,
the new one that's coming out is the Venom stuff on March, I think. And it's $1 comics.
Yep, they're $1 US. So in Canada, they might be $1.20 or something like that. But again, not breaking the bank.
Exactly, but you get to know a little bit of, let's say, the Phoenix saga before you start reading the Marvel Legacy stuff that Andre just recommended, and you get to know a little bit of her backstory and how she looked like in the 90s and the 80s, and really get to have that feel without breaking the bank. And I picked some of those up, the True Believers Phoenix saga stuff, and I was like, this was the thing I wanted to pick up back in the day that I didn't have money for.
Yeah.
So, still even now, you can get those copies and recommend them to friends, and literally, hey, the Phoenix is coming back. Here's my $1 comics.
Yep, borrow it.
Read
it. If you lose it, it was only $1.
Exactly. Yep. And if you happen to read it in the toilet, just keep it.
Yeah.
It's $1. I can buy myself another one.
Yeah, and that's cool. It's a really good initiative that Marvel's done. Basically, anytime there's an event that cycles around a character, they're going to reprint key issues, and release them. So when the Wolverine movie Logan came out, they released a whole bunch of
Logan
Wolverine comics, and you mentioned the Venom. So again, it's a great way to check out things that happened in the past. And sometimes these back issues could be very expensive, so you don't want to buy them, or you don't have the money to buy all of those key trade paperbacks,
but you still get the story.
But you still get the main
essence
story,
of it, right?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
For example, there was The Wedding of Scott and Jean.
Jean Grey, yeah.
You know, I picked that one up. That was $1.